And we are back, episode 209. Adir, welcome.
Hello.
Big week.
Big week. Every week's a big week.
You're very well dressed today. You off to a
Am I?
funeral or something?
I was trying to impress you. Are you impressed or not?
Yeah.
I mean, my personality is what does the impressing with you, isn't it?
It's the biceps. I'd rather you come with a tank top, to be honest.
Thank you very much. You make me feel great about myself.
We've obviously got a new cover art, which I know the ladies have absolutely loved, and obviously some men as well. But my wife looks at it and goes, God, Adir's biceps look massive in that. And they've shoved you right at the back. They've really stitched you up, was her immediate response.
This is how you make someone speechless. Also, I will say, a couple of people said to me, quite a few people said, you've got new artwork. And I said, do we? So I'm the driving force of this podcast. It's pretty clear. Have always been and will always be.
Let's not forget, speaking of new stuff, obviously our Substack is, so you go to contrarianspod.com and you can subscribe to our Substack. You get articles, multiple articles every week, obviously free for listeners, free for everyone for now. But obviously you wrote a great article last week. I've written a couple of things. So jump on and you'll get obviously get Bowden's fantastic episode summaries as well. So highly recommend. We've seen subscriptions explode in the last couple of weeks. So keep jumping on it, guys.
What else can people subscribe to? That sounds like a leading question, but it's a genuine question. What else do you want to
subscribe to the pod itself? So
YouTube maybe or something?
Well, YouTube. Most important thing is subscribing to the pod. So if you don't,
Yeah.
and we've got tens of thousands of people already subscribed to the pod, but if you haven't subscribed already, you don't want to miss an episode. We've got an amazing episode coming up on Saturday with one of Australia's best tech entrepreneurs, so you don't want to miss that one.
Is that on Substack? Is that what you're telling people to subscribe?
No, subscribe on Spotify or Apple
see.
Music
So the podcast,
or Apple
okay.
Podcasts. Sorry, what else? Will's in the room.
So our primary platform, as Adam said, is definitely the different podcast platforms. So if you're listening to this on Spotify and you're a casual listener, definitely hit that subscribe button on Spotify. I'd also add a note that both Adam and Adir have promised to interact with any comments left on any of those platforms.
We will. I'm just waiting for Spotify to approve. I've got to wait 48 hours
After your
comment.
Anyone that's wondering, because I get asked quite often, how much do you edit the podcast? I think this interaction demonstrates to people that very little of the podcast is actually edited. I don't even know what we should be subscribing to, but you should definitely be subscribing. If you subscribe, you'll live a happier and better life and be richer and just overall smile
Can we
more.
give prizes to subscribers? Is that doable? I think we can work out maybe a $500 Luxury Escapes voucher to a random subscriber. Maybe every week for the next month, we might even do that. So all the more, if you want to get something money can't buy, $500 Luxury Escapes voucher, that is just an unbelievable
What does that
price.
mean money
And maybe
can't
you
buy? I can literally buy it for $500.
That's the gag.
That's your gag, I see.
Went over your head.
You got to do the drum, boom, boom, and then I know it's a joke.
And maybe you can throw in some Daily Blooms or some other stuff. I'm sure we'll make it worth our while for subscribing. You have to subscribe to get it.
Courtney just fell off her chair when you said throwing.
Why don't we say there'll be
$10,000 Daily Blooms voucher.
There will be a surprise for each person who wins maybe a fortnightly
of the week.
draw, but it's got to be, we need to see you subscribe on all the different platforms, and we also need to see you comment on those platforms. So anyone who can get in there and add something, first of all, we promise that Adir personally will be in there responding to your messages, and secondly, that there will be a draw and we will be giving out.
And the surprise that people get, it'll be a good surprise, right? We'll give them a good surprise.
Maybe be an Eva bed, maybe to be a catapult piece of wearable tech.
You've got to talk to the founders of these businesses, not me. I'm just a humble servant.
I think it's a link to Adir's workout plan, isn't it?
I'm a humble servant on
Touch
behalf
the
of
bicep
other
half
people.
an hour, it's another prize.
Now, do you know that there's another? I'm just going to go straight into something. Do you know there's another founder of OpenAI? Are you aware of that? His name's
Not Greg Brockman.
Greg Brockman.
Yeah, he's well known.
All right. Well, he wasn't well known by me,
Yeah.
but Greg Brockman, he had some emails that were released as part of this.
Yeah, it was about a month ago.
A month ago.
Yeah.
I only got around to
Great. It
reading
was
some of his
memoir.
comments.
Wasn't his journaling or something like
He
that?
journaled, but
Dear
how
diary?
about, just in case you think, there must be some nice, modest people involved in OpenAI. They can't all be like Sam Altman. Well, it turns out they can all be like him because this was one of his comments from 2017. This is a tech guy. He was what you might have seen.
I think
this.
Greg Brockman's a very smart guy.
What's that?
I think he's a very smart guy.
Oh yeah, he's very
impressive
smart and not at all motivated by money, which is why one might say financially, what will it take for me to get to $1 billion? So that was his focus with OpenAI. And then he wrote to Elon Musk, I am motivated by public recognition for my own work. That's his motivations. I mean, I know that you kind of jumped on the anti-OpenAI bandwagon before I did.
more anti-Sam.
Definitely on the
I actually
anti-Altman
like
bandwagon.
OpenAI,
Well, it's just going down the toilet, but not for a while.
I
First
actually
we'll go up.
reckon, and we're going to talk about Anthropic
This is not a
shortly.
guy that has covered himself in glory with these emails, right?
I think the part of the irony, we're going to talk about Anthropic's massive raise soon, but OpenAI, it's almost like this, talk about contrarian, like you almost can't follow this LLM because as soon as one LLM gets up, the other one starts coming back. And so we had, OpenAI was dominant and then Anthropic came from nowhere and we'll talk about that this rise shortly. And now OpenAI is starting to come back with Codex being, some people think is a better developer tool than Claude. So you sort of can't write OpenAI off just yet. Obviously, there's real questions on Sam's leadership.
I wrote them off. I've written them off.
Really?
You said you can't write them off? Proved you wrong. Now, I might be wrong, but we spoke about this extensively. I can't believe you're backpedaling. I don't know a bike that can go backwards when you pedal this hard.
And I think
Well,
OpenAI,
you're contrarian on your own views. It's
Yeah,
not
that's what I
called
do when
self-contrarians.
Have you not heard the meme when facts change, I change my views? I think facts
What
have changed.
facts have changed?
I think Codex is becoming really competitive. I think Claude's overpriced. I think they're charging too much. That gives a real opportunity for OpenAI to come back in the game.
What's the long-term
I think that-
competitive moat that OpenAI has?
I think it's clear that they erred in going consumer, and obviously Microsoft's the same. But they're course correct. Like Codex isn't a product they're going to release in 3 years. Codex is live now, and it's performing better than the other product. It took a while for people. Like business is a bit slow to move, so it took a while for Anthropic to take over. But it can just as easily flip back.
I'm not arguing against that. But I can see you're going into politics because my question was, what is the long-term moat that OpenAI has?
You say for Anthropic though. What's the
I
long-term
think
moat of
they've
Anthropic?
also got some challenges.
Yeah.
I think you
Well,
bet
think
on
LLM challenge generally.
bet on the hyperscalers. They've got it all going for them. Great models, lots of money, hardware as well.
Google does, but the other
Amazon.
they don't have an LLM though.
Amazon make
They're
their
part
own
of
chips.
Anthropic.
Make their own
they don't
chips.
have an LLM.
Have their own
They've
cloud.
got no frontier model though.
Okay, but I think it's going to be a lot easier for them to buy someone when they go broke, when they've already got their own
I'm not
cloud
sure.
infrastructure and chips.
Well, Anthropic will make $500 million. They say in
I know
in June.
that's going to be a hard one to go broke quickly.
Yeah,
right?
and they're scaling incredibly,
agree.
and even though their scale drops off, if you look at Anthropic's scale, so I was going to talk about this later, but this is a good time. So 2023. Late 2020, so call it early 2024, $100 million bucks ARR.
Which people at the time would have said, "Oh my god, how the hell did they grow to 100 mil so quickly?"
January 20, so a year later, $1 billion ARR, so that's 10x in a year. Mid 2025, so 6 months later, $4 billion ARR, so 4x.
But you could say also growing by selling $1 for significally less than $1.
But now not because they're profitable.
I know, but that was how they were growing.
December 25, which was only 6 months ago, $9 billion. So they're basically 10x, almost 10x 2 years in a row. So from 100 to a billion to call it 10 billion. February, 14 billion ARR, and now 30 billion ARR.
That's actually crazy.
They won't 10x this year, but they probably might 7 or 8x. So that's 10x, 8x, potentially beyond 80 billion ARR and
crazy.
quite profitable. That's like this is.
They might
we've
run
never
out of-
seen growth like this in any business in the history of the world.
Well, they might run out of money in the world. You know how
Yeah,
Elon,
what's the problem?
Well, you know how Elon thinks his TAM is bigger than the world's
28
economy.
trillion.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they might have a similar kind of problem.
This is somewhat legitimate in terms of it. But I think these markets are actually so big that Anthropic's proven they get to profitability, and OpenAI I think can get there with Codex. So I'm if you asked me 2 months ago, I was the biggest OpenAI bear there is. I'm now actually I'm contrarian myself here, but I'm far more bullish on OpenAI now than I was a few months ago. And I think they have a chance to get to profitability. I'm not sure about the 1.2 trillion valuation, but in terms of can they get to profitability, I think there's a good likelihood they might.
Well, I'll tell you about that.
They'll cut all the crap, the SOAR and all that stuff they were burning cash on stupidly. They just go Anthropic, I'm going to almost go, forget about the consumer shit. I'm going to price it too high, people can't afford it. And I'm just going to focus on enterprise and they can get to profitability pretty quickly.
Okay, so Anthropic is getting very expensive. OpenAI, you have become more bullish on. I'm not. But to give a feel for the problems that all of these businesses face, Meta, a much bigger, more established business than either of them, although maybe not on revenue soon, but they are. They have to start charging for their core services now, including apparently they're going to start charging for WhatsApp because,
Highly doubt.
well, they've said they're going to start adding.
Well, they do have an enterprise layer.
Well, they're going to add paid
use.
features like themes,
Yeah,
etc.
that's not charging for WhatsApp. That's adding a subscription tier.
Well, you can say that. And like they made a commitment to never charge for WhatsApp when they bought it.
And they still won't be charging, but you can buy extra stuff that doesn't exist for money. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think it's pretty clear that Meta is going through a period of having to fire staff and charge for products that were previously purely advertising funded to pay for their AI spend.
I completely disagree with that.
Well, they're going to charge for using the core platform of Facebook. So they say a whole lot of stuff is going to stay. They are. A whole lot of stuff is going to stay free, but a whole lot of features that, say, people that are advertising on the platform might need, they're going to start charging for those features as well as charging for advertising. And so I think this is all
Facebook
all to pay for
Meta's
AI.
firing people because they overhired grossly.
I agree, but
and AI washing a lot of the firings, like so many.
That's
other
true,
people.
but the AI bill is crazy.
But you can wind back the AI bill. That's choice to build stuff by having token use. Anyway, so I'm much less bearish on OpenAI than I was a few months ago. Like whether it becomes a 1.2 trillion, I think that's unlikely, to be honest, as in the long term. But could it be a $500 billion business? Like if Anthropic's making 500 million now and the way it's scaling, Anthropic could be making 20 billion a year pretty soon.
They could, but it's just hard to know what the long term looks like for these businesses and what the competitive moats look like. Because if you go back to like the .com boom, Google, they are dirt cheap back then relative to dirt cheap, like basically zero.
Yeah.
But most of the other businesses that were around at that time in that boom, obviously they didn't survive at all, and some were worth a lot of money. None were generating $20 billion of profits.
Webvan and Pets, they were quite small businesses. They were like sub $100 million.
All of these major businesses involved in AI today can't survive. I would say 80% of them can't survive. So I think that's the ultimate question here is not, does Firmus get their IPO away? Although you're very excited about that question because it's another
been delayed again.
Another lunch that if I lose, I won't be buying.
I'm buying lunches for months at this rate.
But we're very excited about Firmus getting away or not getting away. But ultimately, in the long run, it's going to be very hard in the next few years to know who's going to survive or not. And I'm generally pretty skeptical about most players in this industry.
I was super skeptical of ChatGPT because I just don't think consumers are going to pay, and they've proven they won't pay, or not like $20 a month, but they won't pay. But what OpenAI and Anthropic have become, especially Anthropic, is effectively productivity tools for developers. And there's a great market there. If you can make developers are expensive at $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 if they're working on a hyperscaler. If you can make them 10 to 20% more effective, you can pay $100,000 more than $80,000 for that, and it's still ROI positive. So I think there's enough juice there that as purely productivity tools, they make sense. Consumer, forget about it. There's no business there.
Who else? You're bullish on the Neo clouds yet, or still bearish on
bearish
those?
about that. That's
all right, you're still bearish on
the whole Ponzi
for
scheme,
another
that
few
shit.
weeks.
That shit's all a Ponzi scheme.
You could not have been more bearish on Sam Altman.
On him, I'm still bearish, but he's just the figurehead now. Like there's 1,000 people who work there.
So let me tell you another person who, we'll see if you're more bearish on these comments because I didn't get you on those last comments. So we get closer to Australia, and now we go to the housing minister. You know who the housing minister is?
We have a housing minister?
Yeah.
They're doing a terrible job.
We don't have houses. We've got a housing minister. It's, so her name is Claire O'Neill.
Claire O'Neill. Well, I used to quite like Claire O'Neill. She's kind of lost the plot a bit, but I used to really like it.
These were her comments on the weekend. I think she's done the impossible, which is to undermine the entire government's tax program with
impossible.
One interview.
Pretty possible.
Well, she's done it.
When it's that dumb a program, it's not hard to undermine that.
So she said that this is what the objective of these changes are. We're not scrapping the capital gains tax discount. We're changing the way it's calculated so it's neutral across all asset classes. And then she goes on, the tax system should not create and drive investment decisions for people. Now, at one point I thought it is possible that these Labor politicians periodically visit planet Earth, at least for a coffee. But that demonstrates that she hasn't been here for a very long time because tax treatment is a huge driver of capital, of profitability.
Well, that was the whole argument that we were getting rid of negative gearing as it impacts property prices.
So her argument is basically that contrary to Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers' pitch, that this is designed to make the asset class of housing, a passive asset class,
solve generational
less
inequality.
attractive to investors. Yeah. That's what they're telling you. This will be less attractive. Her pitch is, no. It's not. This tax will not make any asset class more or less attractive than any other asset class. It's a complete undermining of the whole argument. Now, the journalist did not ask her a single question about this. What network do you think this interview might have been on?
Hazarding a guess, the ABC.
Well,
taxpayer funded.
You'd be right.
Yeah.
And so I just find it incredible that this tax has gone from a terrible I was going to say half-baked, 1/10 baked, ultimately raw idea. I think doing the bidding of Treasury and Treasury's hopes and dreams that were unrealistic
and
for
Treasury's
20
goal,
years.
as we saw, I think Chris Joy mentioned, Treasury's goal is to raise money. And it's the role of the Treasurer to say, actually, politically speaking, this is stupid, or morally speaking, this is stupid. Like Treasury had their way about 100% tax. They'd have billions of dollars to fritter away. But ultimately, you got to do the thing that's expedient for the country. And that isn't raising the most amount of tax. That's actually spending it wisely.
Well, as you said, you'll be happy to know then, for me to remind you that this raises almost no tax. So we don't have that problem with this particular tax. But you've got a situation now where not only can they not explain the tax, but you've got senior ministers, a minister for housing, undermining the housing fundamentals that are stated as being the core idea of the policy. And then I don't know if you saw this. I sound like you with this rant. But the Treasury Secretary, I forget
Jenny Wilkinson.
Disgraced
Jenny Wilkinson.
has come. Well, I'm happy that you said that because
never had a job in private sector in her whole life.
But she's worked for both governments, okay? Governments of both persuasions. And to me...
Doesn't it make her any more capable?
But if you can survive 30-something years, I don't even want to comment on her capabilities because
we know they don't exist.
I don't know about her. Well, I don't know. I don't know about her capabilities.
We've seen by her policy suggestions they don't exist.
Well, what I know is this.
And she's on the RBA board, don't forget. She's speculated as a person wanting to reduce rates on the RBA board. So she's getting it wrong left, right and centre here.
So none of that makes me... Like, I know you'll be disparaging of this, but none of that makes me question her capability because I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do question this. So she basically came out and said, there is no clear evidence that these tax changes will be detrimental to capital investment and capital flows in Australia. Now, that is not a lie, by the way. That is not a lie. But that is a political statement because the truthful statement, I'll give you the truthful statement, it is this. There is no clear evidence either way about what these tax changes will do. They may do nothing, but they also may dry up capital flows into Australia because the research is mixed. However, it's the long version of this. However, there is strong evidence that these type of tax changes reduce the amount of intellectual property and patents registered by countries and significantly reduce venture capital investment in countries. That's the honest answer. Yeah. Why is she now giving political answers to shield the government?
Role. And she should be a non-politicised neutral role.
I totally
it's
agree.
Disgraceful.
And so I find that shocking.
I think she should be fired, but she's doing the bidding of the people who should be firing us. That's never going to happen in a million years.
She spent 30 years, I think, working for governments of both persuasions. Obviously, she's done a good job of balancing that. I'm just shocked right now that she's come out and said this, and it just reinforces my view that this government has effectively been completely manipulated by the bureaucracy to pass all of their dream changes that there were no chance of anyone getting through.
I think whether it's Charles or Elbow, I think they both potentially wanted to do this. They just didn't think they could do it, and Treasury gave them the cover to do it potentially. We don't know that they didn't plant the seed in Treasury in the first place.
Well, one of Treasury's ideas has been the higher the return of an asset, the higher the tax rate on that asset. It's one of the singularly dumbest ideas you could possibly have if you fundamentally believe in capitalism.
Yeah.
And that's what this system does.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, I'm not going to rant about it anymore, but the depth of depravity of these changes just increases every week.
So we had a big episode on SiteMinder a couple of days ago, which was a great episode. Got some great feedback on it. But in what has been not an amazing day for the markets today. Most things are sort of flat to down, especially travel stocks. I think you've got obviously web travel's down 4%, flight census down at 1%. SiteMinder, which we both and our good friend Scott, we all three rated as a buy and we loved it, up 8%. So I'm not going to claim credit for that market movement, but it is very interesting that the first morning after we pump up a stock, bang, up 8%.
Well, they did announce a deal at the end of last week, which frustrated me immensely because it was after we recorded the episode, but before it came out. But
usually deals don't impact the share price because it could be good or bad.
I think this one
unless you're selling something.
No, it wasn't an acquisition deal. It was like a signing, we get money deal. Yeah. I know that you want to move on, but I'm just not going to let you because I just want to tell you two things very quickly that I think you'll love. The first is, so we talk about a lot about a Curtis on this show, which is Oliver Curtis from Firmus.
But now Curtis Stone.
Well, that is the Curtis I want to talk about. Curtis Stone.
Curtises.
You know Curtis Stone?
Curtis LeMay, the World War II don't know him personally. I met him once, but we don't work with him.
All right. So I'm not shocked that you met him.
He's too expensive. He's he's crazy expensive to work with.
Is he? Well, Coles works with him. Do you know that?
They're paying him millions.
Tell me what you think about this idea for customer loyalty. I'll tell you what happened to me. So I'm the guy that collects Curtis Stone credits at Coles.
What's a Curtis Stone credit?
And gets free fry pans. You wouldn't know because your shopping is done by one of your 9 butlers.
I love shopping.
That drops it off in your house.
I love
and
shopping.
then you open your mouth and say, I need grapes now. Or I like while lying on a couch and grapes somehow appear in your mouth. When you eat breakfast, they pour milk in one side and they pour the cereal in the other side.
You know this is for fraudulent comments. You know I don't eat breakfast.
That's true. Yeah. That's actually absolutely
your web of lies
true.
is coming untangled.
Yeah, the 2 grapes you eat a day are manually put into your mouth by one of the other butlers with silk sterilised gloves. So Curtis Stone, they did this thing at Coles. You know about this, Mike, or not?
I know that I get some points and my girlfriend always asks me to redeem them for knives or something. Is this the same thing?
Yeah, so this is why, I don't know what to say about my girlfriend tells me to redeem them for knives. That's a whole other podcast. But I think that this is why, people blame avocado toast for people not affording houses.
Yeah.
But it's people not taking the credit seriously from Coles and buying fry pans. So basically, this is what happens. Joel, anything or nothing? You got anything?
I shop at Aldi. They don't offer any points.
Well, my hat's off to that. Very good shop at Aldi. Probably much cheaper. But so Coles, they give you these credits. You spend $20, you get a credit.
I've never got
bonus
that.
credits, super credits.
Yeah.
Coles does it, Woolworths does it.
Or like a
Flybuys. You're not a Flybuys member?
I never use Flybuys.
Never use Flybuys.
No, I should get onto that actually.
I'm shocked that you don't use Flybuys.
I don't use Woolworths every day. Woolworths every day just actually doesn't work for me. I've tried a bunch of times to sign up to Everyday Rewards. There's just a bug in it. Won't let me sign up.
It works for the whole country except
not
you.
for me. I've tried it so many times. It's bizarre.
It might be deliberate.
It's a doom loop.
It might be something to do with his podcast.
No, this is pre-podcast.
Okay, well, there you go. They know you well. So Curtis Stone has this, Coles has this thing where you earn credits and then there's Curtis Stone stuff and you can redeem it. So I'm like, well, that's a nice fry pan.
Yeah.
I'll get my 70, 80 credits and redeem it for a fry pan.
Great.
That's cool. And it runs for a certain amount of time. And then the time finishes, right? And then I've still got 30 credits left, but I had nothing to buy. That was okay. I was happy for them to expire. 2 weeks later, there's a new promo.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? It's Curtis Stone glassware. Same guy they're paying, right? What do you think happened to my 30 credits that I had for Curtis Stone fry pans? Gone. Yeah. Where did my credits go? Start again.
Breakage.
Don't you think that is a bad customer loyalty? That's bad, right?
Yeah.
How could they not retain the credits and give you some feeling that you're invested and
Also
bought
makes
in?
you more likely to
That's
want
right.
credits in the future.
That's right.
Get a little bit home at a breakage, they probably wouldn't value you much anyway.
So I know there was a long lead into that, but I really think so much, like there would be 100 people employed in the loyalty department of these businesses. Like, is this not the most obvious thing? Don't make your customers that you're trying to make loyal feel like you're taking credits away from them when the next thing is called the same guy's name.
Really dumb.
By the way, I've redeemed those glassware credits in the past. I preferred the fry pans for them. And guess what? I think Woolworths is running a fry pans promotion now, so you can get it there as well.
Exactly. If I can get Everyday Rewards.
Now tell me this company. I'm going to say something and you tell me what this company is. You're going to love this company.
Yeah.
And then you're going to tell me if you think you're surprised by the numbers. So this company is a private company. It's a retailer. They're now trying to shift from selling other people's stuff to their own stuff. They've got 17 stores, I think is my recollection from reading this. They hit a high of $40 million of revenue in like the kind of post-COVID period, but they've been sliding. It's not a huge business. They're now down to $36 million of revenue and they keep $4.5 million as EBITDA. So decent sized business.
Yeah.
Now, this business sells products where you might be a bit embarrassed about being seen going into their store. You know which business this is? Mike, you want to have a guess about this business?
Sexy Land?
Yes. You got it.
You got that very quick. Got that very quickly.
Nailed it. So, what do you think about those numbers for Sexy? It's owned by a 70-year-old guy. He owns the whole company.
There's quite a few. How many are there?
17.
I see one on the way to the airport.
Do you not think every time I talk about something, I say some fact, and then at the end of the story, Adam comes back and says, well, what did you say? What's the story? 1717.
What's the business again?
Yeah. Ask Mike. Mike knows it well. Mike accounts for probably half the revenue of that business.
I actually find the stigmatism of this stuff
Mike.
really wrong, by the way.
I agree. I agree.
I thought
I'm going to video you going into the store, shopping the thing. We'll put it on our posts. Like, go on our YouTube channel.
I'm really not a big customer. I actually find that people demonising that's wrong.
I would buy that online if I was going to buy it, just to be
We used to sell it. We sell heaps.
Yeah, I would do it online.
Yeah.
That would be
It was easier.
I think I'm in of an age where there probably would be a bit of a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
And so I probably would
I think
buy
like
it
hens
online.
nights and what that's like. It's very common to go
Yeah,
there.
people like to buy it as if they're joking about the stuff they're buying.
Yeah.
And so that's how people,
Yeah.
that's how they do it, right? They pretend they're joking.
The dick straws.
So what do you think about?
I thought it'd be a bigger business, actually. I'm surprised it's only 40 million, 36 million. I thought it'd be
37 mil, 4.5 mil of EBITDA.
Yeah. And there's leases and stuff in that EBITDA, maybe.
Shockingly unprofitable for a company selling adult stuff.
Yeah.
Like you
It's
look
usually
at
great margin adult stuff.
Yeah, because because of the stigma we spoke
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
And so they are transitioning to direct.
Yep, which makes sense.
But you look at, I know this is you can't really compare this because one's a digital business, but you look at OnlyFans, just basically a porn business, an amateur porn business. So that makes a lot of money on great margins. Now, they don't have to buy products.
But it's very much a platform.
I agree with you, but if you're going to go and do this industry, I would have thought the thing about it is it's going to be a bit awkward at the barbecue, but you get to make tons of money in return. Yeah. It's much less profitable than I expected.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought these guys would have massive margins because, for the reasons you explained. And this aren't that many stores, so you've got minimal. And they're very visible. You drive past them, Tullamarine, the way the airport, you see it really clearly. Good
branding.
That's a great point. We've got a really special guest in the studio, on the phone. Can't wait to have him on. And we're super pumped to have a genuine legend of Australian entrepreneurship on the show. We're joined by Frank Greeff, who went from grinding in the kitchens of Sydney as a chef to co-founding a business called Realbase with his brothers, engineering an incredible $180 million sell. He's back in the trenches with a business called Kinso AI and is also leading a campaign to raise $1 million for children's cancer through his cookbook, Eat With Purpose. And he's also challenging the status quo on how founders manage their mental wealth and equity. Even more impressive has been Frank's incredible honesty and bravery in challenging the appalling CGT changes being forced through Parliament by the Gen Z hating Labor government. Frank created the Elbow co-founder meme, which went massively viral and has been leading a rearguard action against the changes, which will of course destroy jobs and hope for millions of young Australians while lining the pockets of millionaire Labor politicians. Frank, you've been outspoken and brilliant on this topic. What were your first thoughts when you heard the budget?
Firstly, thanks for having me. So I kind of first became privy to it maybe 2 days prior. I think I was a little bit late to the punch. And I remember it was my brother messaged me on Saturday and he was like, have you heard about what's going on? And it actually kind of rocked my world, if I'm honest, for 48 hours. And it was from a few different levels. I think the first one was just I'm very close to kind of the business ecosystem here in Australia. And yes, I may be, slightly biased to the business types that I'm with and surrounded by. Certainly, it's not all just tech. It's it's e-com, it's retail. There's a pretty big mix and makeup. But I think the biggest thing for me is meeting a very wide variety of founders here in Australia, and just celebrating ambition and seeing especially the young founders in Australia. And getting heartbroken every time they move overseas, and go, I'm going to go, let's say move to San Fran or whatever. Every time I hear that, it kind of broke my heart. And so the first thing that came to my mind was, I feel like we've been having this incremental momentum in the right direction. The capital markets, the VC markets in Australia had been growing. More and more young people that I've been meeting were keen to get into the world of founding business. And so the first thing that came to my mind is holy shit, is this going to kind of rip that out of Australia? And we have a few things, I guess, going against us, but we have a lot of great things in our favor. And I was just, immediately okay, is this going to stop? Is this going to stop the momentum? And they're going to put a pause on that.
So I want to jump in and say, you created this meme and the meme became the meme and was replicated by a huge number of people in tech, but also Elbow himself commented on your meme. I thought in a very, it didn't cover him in glory. He basically said he was just happy to look so nice on everyone's memes that included him as a co-founder. But like, how did it feel to see that meme go bananas? And what was like the craziest moment that happened through all of that memeing?
I guess for absolute clarity, I tell you what, ever since being dragged through the mud of the media, I've become a stickler to make sure every piece of nuance and detail is shared. I should start by saying, so we didn't create it. We actually had an early founding member of our new product, Kinso. He came into the office that day to like launch onto the product. And he shared us with this idea, like, hey, I'm going to do this like post. And we're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, we'll get behind it and we'll do a bit of a call out. And so that, that kind of helped certainly supercharge it. In terms of like the craziest moments, it was probably getting those. Like, I started getting messages about like how this is like kind of ricocheting in the politicians' world, and we're getting reached out to by so many like media like establishments, like traditional media, hearing from whichever politicians going, oh my gosh, this thing is going crazy in the four walls of Canberra, and that was kind of that was like a little bit weird and wonderful. But to be honest, like it makes sense because social media these days is a very powerful thing, and it can reach a lot of people. And like, let's be honest, like a lot of media is trying to cling on, is trying to hold on to, their once glory days. And so something that's going off on social media, they'll certainly jump onto and grab to make sure that their stories are relevant.
So I think one of the great myths of this budget is that it's a budget that helps young people and is bad for older people. When I think if you look in reality, pretty much everything that older rich people have has remains from superannuation to grandfathering in CGT to grandfathering in negative gearing. So older people keep everything. And I put we're not that old, especially you, Frank. So one of the great myths is that this hurts rich people. Actually, like if you look at you and all the other great founders who have come out sort of opposing, so Paul Bassett, Lee Jasper, they've all had their exits. You've had your exit. You've got your money. It doesn't actually hurt you. Yes, you've got other businesses coming, but you'll be fine. It's the younger founders, and I think that's what's really caught on the scene. So many young founders use your meme. These are 20, 25-year-old kids who haven't had a chance to buy a house, can't buy shares because they can't afford it. They're founding a business with zero cost base, and they're the ones getting smashed. And that's something that's what your meme has done so well to point out.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing I was most nervous about, I guess, being vocal about it was exactly that. Was kind of like, and that's kind of where the narrative ended up going. But it was like I was in the prior to these rules, I was able to grow this business. Pay shitloads of tax along the way and a big old check at the end of it. But it's fine. And so and the reality to what you're saying is like anybody who's made their wealth, no problems, because, the people who've made their wealth can always figure out a structure, or alternatively, like the sad truth is people who've made their wealth might be like, okay, great, investing in businesses or investing in shares is no longer the optimal vehicle. Okay, great, no worries. I'll just park it all in my primary place of residence, which is, 0% tax. Great, no dramas, and I'll outperform. It's the younger people. It's either, the next generation of like hyper ambitious who want to build the big business, or just like the everyday business builders, as well as just like regular people. Like one of the things I think is completely out of touch with this kind of reform is all the young people I have spoken to, prior to this, whenever I spoke about property, it's kind of like, oh, look, property is out of reach.
You jumped in, or I'll say you jumped out, put your head up, made some comments that I thought were very reasonable, not dramatic. I'm on a podcast where I know what dramatic comments sound like. Your comments were not dramatic. They were very reasonable. I presume, you've had some media exposure in the past because you did a good job of exiting your business and you're doing another new nice business, but not this level of exposure. I mean, tell me, in one sentence, were you shocked by the level of hate that headed your way as a result of this?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? Like, to your point, I was like, I always like to think I'm I'm a good guy. Like I spend so much time campaigning and helping younger generations. I talk at universities like every few weeks. And then, to just get get these media places to clip up tiny bits of what I'm saying and then get dragged through the mud. And then, I've had a fair shitload of people just sliding into my DMs or sending me emails or whatever, just I won't say the profanities.
It's horrible, right? I mean, I think it's very easy for people in general to misunderstand that someone that is saying something publicly and maybe has had some business success is governed by the same set of human emotions, generally speaking, as they are. And, they just forget that you're also a person. I mean, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is there was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald that I would say, I mean, I've had a hatchet job done on me in a very much not dissimilar way, I'll say, without going into detail. But you got a hatchet job done on you is how I would describe it. It disparaged you for making $180 million and not giving it to your staff and having the audacity to have a view on taxation. I think it juxtaposed you with Tim Doyle, and Tim is a great guy. I know Tim well, but like you both built businesses and you both built them in a way that worked for each of your businesses at the time. So, created this attempted conflict in the startup scene. Presumably you felt that article deeply misrepresented your views, but also was a personal attack? Or am I more upset about it on your behalf than you are about it?
No, I'd say that's a very, very fair characterization. I think, so I received maybe on Wednesday last week was like a list of questions from the journo, and immediately I was like, okay, there is a hit piece coming for me, because it wasn't like, I want your take on these, these.
So you knew what was happening.
Oh, I knew it was about to come. And because the questions are very aggressive, the questions, because I'm quite a transparent person. So, I've had people before ask, how much money did you make on the exit, or how many shareholders were, and I'm very transparent with going okay, this is how many shareholders were, blah, 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 blah. So I knew it was going to be, dragging me through the mud for sure.
Can we go into a bit of detail, because the intimation, and I think we both found it really unfair for multiple reasons, but just to get the facts on the table, because they weren't really, they were almost misled, maybe unintentionally, but misled the reader into thinking that you didn't share anything, you kept it for yourself, but you obviously had, not only do you have co-founders, but you actually were very, very generous with equity. So can you talk, how many people got equity? What was the size of the business, call it, a couple of years after, or a couple of years before you sold it? So obviously your business did grow a lot towards the end, and you don't, like if someone started a week before you sold the business, no one gives them equity. So why don't you talk a bit about the evolution of the business and just how you did give your team a lot of valuable equity.
And why those, I read that it was 7 people, but why those 7 people, like when they got equity, and why was it those 7 and not 100?
For sure. So this is the, when I got those questions, this is the kind of nuance that I made sure to put in there, because it changes the entire dynamic of the story. So the context is when we launched our first business, myself and my 2 brothers, for 5 years, we're a pure, services-based company. Then we shifted into tech. Now, the early stage team members that were with us in that business, we gave out equity to, multiple of them. We also had, and of course, this is the kind of stuff that doesn't make it to the story, where in those early days, you say to a team member, look, we don't have much money. We can offer you one of 2 things. Here's a 10 grand pay rise, or alternatively equity, but just note it's high risk. And multiple employees said, no, I'm all good. I'll take that 10 grand pay rise, right? But that doesn't make as good a hit piece on us.
Yeah, lots of people ask that.
That doesn't sound very negative to me, so don't include that.
Yeah.
And then from there, we grew to a team of about 40 people. And what actually happened is we got approached by our largest competitor, and our largest competitor said, "Hey, we want to do a merger." Now that business was 8 times the size of us, and so we went from 4 million revenue to 38 million overnight. And so what happened is you go from my brothers and I, we own the great majority of the company, to now we own 50% between us and the early equity shareholders that we brought on. And so when that moment happens, the merger, I was a majority shareholder at 15%, and as you guys know, you don't control the decisions of giving out. You don't just give out shares. You go to a board structure, present it, It's not that easy anymore. But also from that merger point, so that's at that point of merger, we then had 10 shareholders. From merger, which is 40 to 350 people overnight, within 12 months, we'd started the acquisition process.
And those staff are not your staff. Like, they became your staff, but you've got another 300 staff whose equity structure you were not responsible for, who came with another business who had nothing to do with you except competing against you prior to the businesses
and also
coming
wouldn't
together.
have got much equity anyway because it's so late. And they would have got a couple, as in between them, a couple of points. So we're talking low single digit.
But that's all right though,
points.
because we can, I do want to give credit to Tim and the others at Eucalyptus who did set up a structure to from the start to give out all of this equity. But it's totally.
But did Tim give that much?
I think
a quarter of Frank's staff had equity, which is a very high
that's
ratio.
a good point.
A quarter of the original team.
Yeah, had or probably more were offered equity.
More would have been offered. So probably half would have been offered and a quarter took. That's up there with anyone in Australia. So the whole framing that Frank and his brothers were villains for not giving equity is just fundamentally wrong. It's just a complete stuff up.
And also misunderstands capitalism, capitalism very unpopular in this age.
Even forgetting that's an extremely generous equity scheme.
I agree with you. And so look, I'm not really one for conspiracy theories, but you might be. And so, do you think, why was that article written about you? It was a very strange article that was very consistent with the government's talking points and very nasty about you.
I wrote pretty quickly, this looked like a Labor. Labor does this better than anyone in the world almost. This had to come from a chief of staff or from the massive Labor team.
It might have. It wouldn't have. Well, we shan't say it had to, but it might have.
Maybe Dan Andrews freelancing a little bit for the federal guys. Not much to do these days.
You got Dan Andrews into the conversation. And so you just, do you have conspiracy theories on it? Do you think it was just mean? Do you think it was clicks? You have a view on this?
Oh, look, I won't lean on to the conspiracy theories in preparation that this will get chopped up. So I couldn't tell you, but I think the last piece of nuance that was very cleverly left out of my statement was we started the business when we were 20 years old. I was a chef. My brothers had never had jobs or bosses.
That's an amazing story, Frank. That is an incredible story.
We had no idea what it was. So one, people have asked before, how come you didn't raise capital? You bootstrapped. We just didn't even know there were capital markets. We didn't, and it's like, how come you didn't have a sophisticated ESOP? And it's like, we didn't even know what ESOP was. So when we gave out shares, it would just be straight equity and you just transfer shares to that person. Yeah. You know what I mean? So people were working with us for a year and
Absolutely.
It's like, here is equity, and we didn't know anything different or better. And so the key is you learn a bunch of lessons and then you go well, what do I take from those lessons to apply to the next? And that's why the critical piece for me was in our new business, I know about an ESOP. I know all that stuff. And now it's 10 out of the 11 people, and soon to be 11, have ESOP, and you have all the right structures. And so I think the key difference between myself and Tim Doyle, apart from a couple of zeros because they did an incredible job, is they were backed by VC. And so when you get backed by VC, the VC is okay, we want to make 10 to 15%. Part of this is an ESOP program. There's a bit of guidance that happens. In our world, there was none guidance.
And Tim has been around the block. Tim was around the block with Koala, which was also VC backed. You came from a place that many founders come from, which is I'm young, I'm new. I don't want to say unsophisticated. I'm just new to this world. I'm unsophisticated in this world of
But it's
money.
not even that. We wanted to give equity for ages here. It took us probably 6-7 years to get it done because it costs $100,000 to get it set up. So certainly back then.
Set up.
We now give a chunk of staff, but it took a long time. So it's not as if you can just click your fingers and do it either. We've got to wrap up, Frank. You've been amazing. And just Adir talked about something called anti-truth about a month ago. And this is a classic case. And not only have you been tarred completely wrongly, but we've met before where you were raising money for your charity, which was incredible. So you've been not only an amazing founder, but an incredible charitable person. So to be tarred like this is just so incredibly unfair. It's such anti-truth. I'm really disappointed in Swanee for writing the article because I like him and I think he does a good job. But I think he's been briefed here by evil forces, inverted commas, who have an agenda to push. And I think you're the innocent victim of trying to do the right thing, and this is what happens.
Well, good on you. And hopefully, we met because I just sent you a message on LinkedIn feeling bad for you. And hopefully you get those messages as well of support because we live in a democracy and it's every citizen's right to be able to speak freely about things that the government is doing. And you were not even abusive or insulting. God, I see all that all over social media.
Yeah, that's my LinkedIn page.
You weren't even that. And so I would just really encourage you not to be dissuaded by this and to keep speaking, because I think your voice is measured and it's smart and it's pretty young, and it comes from a place of personal experience, or what is it called now, like my own truth or something. And so I really would encourage you to keep doing that, Frank. I think it's really terrific.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Cheers, legends. Have a good one.
We'll go to a super quick break. Back with more Contrarians just in a moment. And we are back. And it was possibly the world's second largest ever fundraising, and it was barely reported. And this is pretty incredible. Anthropic, we talked about just a few minutes ago, raised, you know how much they raised? Last
but
week.
I know their valuation was like close to $1 trillion.
965 billion, so call it $1 trillion. They raised 65 billion, so it's a decent raise. Cash. Wow. Devil's in the details of these things.
65 trillion NVIDIAs or $65 trillion?
Well, I don't see NVIDIA. They have Samsung, SK Hynix and Micron participated, but I don't actually see NVIDIA.
You know what those companies are that participated?
They're the memory businesses,
Micron,
right?
yeah, they're memory businesses.
Yeah, and they've been like 10x in the last year.
If you look at, I didn't mention this, but Micron, obviously they've rocketed. Remember when I did that whole big kind of rant about AI and the whole stack?
Yeah.
I said you should buy cooling businesses. So they've gone well.
Yeah.
But also SanDisk, you know that business, and Israeli
10X
found
again?
a company,
Yeah.
which I thought that
Used to be
ceased
flash
to
drive
exist,
business,
right? Yeah, that's right. So they've 10x'd. Yeah, it's just crazy what's going on.
So it was led by Ultimate Capital, which I think Brad Gerstner, Dragoneer, Greenaxe, Sequoia, Capital Group, Coachu, D1. So these are A-grade names. There's also Bailey Gifford, Blackstone, Brookfield, DE Shaw, DSD Global, Fidelity. These are the biggest investors on earth. So these are smart. These are super smart people. The Journal reported last week that Anthropic's revenue is doubling to $10.9 billion in the second quarter. We talked about earlier that 10x, 8x. That is just unbelievable. They're forecasting a profit of $559 million, which is super precise for the June quarter, given there's a third left. In the first quarter, Anthropic spent, this is the first quarter this year, Anthropic spent 71 cents on computing power for every dollar. It's down to 56 cents. That's some real scale we're saying, which is obviously why they've turned profitable. OpenAI, which we talked about a month ago.
How do you think they've scaled that? Do you think it's just utilization? I don't think so.
I don't know, but clearly some scale benefits coming through there.
So they're not. So the only way you can
charging more as well, maybe.
So the only way you can get better margins in this business is one, you say we weren't fully utilizing, but that's impossible. They've got the opposite problem.
That's true.
They're overutilizing. They had to pull back. Two, you get cheaper chips from NVIDIA. We can forget about that. So that's NVIDIA's profitability is linked to that. Three, they're using other chips that are not NVIDIA. Definitely possible, cheaper chips. Or four, they're charging more. That is probably likely as well.
Bit of three and mostly four. OpenAI raised $122 billion, which I think was the biggest round ever. This was in March at $852 billion. So Anthropic's now more valuable than OpenAI. And OpenAI is 122. There were some big asterisks around that. There was a lot of sort of in-kind and chips and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's less of that. So this is, if we went back a year, Anthropic was like a tenth the valuation of GPT, of OpenAI, I should say. It is now more, but this is unbelievable. I've never seen a business grow like this.
Well, I don't think a business ever has grown like this. That's why. This is the forst time ever. The question is, what would make it worth $1 trillion? And I think the answer might be, like these things, forget about what their terminal growth is. I never subscribe to that concept. But let's think about their growth in 5 years' time. Probably will be 30%. They'll still probably be able to grow 30% is my guess. And so if they
were now at 1,000%. So.
I know. So they'll probably, but it probably will slow. Like they can't keep this level of growth in 5 years.
A little this year, but still crazy.
And so if a business was growing at 30% and making, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like making an NPAT of $20 to $30 billion, you could probably say that feels like $1 trillion valuation. And so the question is, what do we think their margins are going to be, their NPAT margins in 5 years' time? And I think the biggest challenge they have is that, like, what are they really selling? They're selling a service layer sitting on top of other people's hardware. And the service layer attracts a premium. Obviously, you can see that in the pricing. Is the hardware going to go down over time? Maybe. Is like the cost of it to the gross margin? Are they going to get more leverage to increase pricing power over time? That's my big doubt. My big view is it goes down, right?
Goes down.
And so I think, like, do you think
you got lightweight, you got competitors everywhere, you got the distillation stuff. This
you
is
got
not going
people
up.
that are going to have fundamentally lower cost of goods because they're making their own chips and they own their own data
There's
centers.
not huge switching costs with LLMs. Like we're seeing as
there's a bit, you're right.
there's a little bit, but it's not major. But as the price of Anthropic's now skyrocketing, people are just desperately trying to find alternatives. So if you can get 90% less token cost, you're going to probably switch. So that's what's happening.
Yeah, and as
And they're growing notwithstanding this, by the way, but eventually they tap out.
yeah, and so do you think that they're going to be able to do 25% NPAT margins in 5 years' time?
Probably not.
15?
Probably not.
Let's say we multiply their NPAT by 7. Okay,
Yeah.
that's 14.28% or
it's
something,
a bit
right?
generous, but
Something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I know that's high, right? As an
Yeah.
NPAT margin, we could multiply it by 10.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you think they're going to have $250 to $300 billion of revenue in 5 years' time at those margins? Yes or no?
Easily. The rate of growth, they will for sure.
You think they'll get there?
Well, they've gone from 10x, so they'll probably be 80 billion into this year.
8-0.
8-0.
Yeah. So can they get to 300?
Yes, because
How fast?
Even they don't 10x, even though they go from 10x to 3x, that gets them there in a year.
Yeah.
So
it's possible.
that's easy to hit, I think.
And
I think the margin's the question, but
the
growth
margin
isn't the
in a
question.
year's time is going to be better than that because they've got better like their NPAT margins will be stronger than that, won't they? Because they're going through the scalable moment.
No, but I think to keep growing, they're going to have to keep reducing
I
costs.
see.
So, because there is competition there. So I think not so much you're wrong, you're just proffering different views. I think the growth continues, but the margin starts compressing real
Right.
bad.
And so
But the growth is so high, it overcomes a lot of that margin compression.
$1 trillion valuation is not ridiculous for this business in the way it is for Elon's businesses.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. But it's not, you can see how this could be worth that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's almost like a late stage VC bet now.
And if you want to get in, because there's not many of these to get into, maybe at the moment there are 2. And if you want to get into one of them, you pay the price because of the supply and demand curve.
These guys are way closer to profitability than OpenAI.
Yeah.
So it's really just them. If you want an LLM exposure, it's got to be Anthropic, which is why all these smart funds are doing it. They can't afford to miss out because it could 2-3x.
And so Alphabet now is worth what, 3 or 4 trillion?
Yeah, at least.
And so the question is, would you invest in this at 1 trillion, Nvidia at 5 trillion, or Alphabet in the 3 to 4 trillion range? I'd still invest in Alphabet every day of the week, right? Which is why they're the most valuable company in the world.
Gemini's great. I love Gemini.
Yeah.
So it's what I tend to use. Partly because I'm just pre-logged into Google, but I just like it better.
But all of these funds can't invest in Alphabet because they're not public market funds. Although Bailey
some are.
Gifford
Fidelity
is.
is.
Yeah, but this part of their business is probably private markets
sure,
funds.
sure.
They got to deploy capital,
Yeah.
and there is literally no hotter business in the world than this. And I think the act of being on that list that you just read opens up all of the other opportunities to them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on. And it's been a big few days for the rotten to the core corporate travel agent CTM. In a Senate hearing on Friday, Deputy Chairperson Sarah Court said ASIC was looking at a range of different limbs of the issues of corporate traveller, including investigating audit of PwC. Court also said the corporate cop is looking as to whether CTM directors breached their duties and it has refused any extension to its trading halt, of course, famously halted. If that wasn't bad enough, Corporate Traveller is now in safe harbour. I'll get you to explain what that is in a second. Financially distressed but not yet insolvent, and has brought in Allens and EY as its legal and accounting liquidation advisors. Adir, you know about this safe harbour
You'll
thing?
tell me if I'm right with what I'm saying. My understanding of safe harbour is it's effectively directors saying we're worried that this thing might end up insolvent.
Well, we could be insolvent now.
And so we want legal protections that enable us to keep trading it without being personally liable for the insolvency.
Totally. And the AFR Street Talk, which is, I think, gets probably the best business newsmaker in Australia, got their hands on a confidential presentation to lenders, which is pretty epic. This was made on the 22nd of May, where Corporate Travel said it agreed to sign with the UK to pay them $178 million Australian or £95 million. Remember, they originally said it was going to be less, then they upped it to like a bit more than that, and they've sort of reduced it a little bit. But that is a crazy $175 million Australian. They've got under $100 million cash. Some of that's tied up, and they've got some debt facilities.
We don't really even know how much cash they've got now because you haven't
it's
seen
all
it for a long time.
Well, they've been honest about the cash since 2015.
Yeah.
So, Corporate Travel needs its lender syndicate, which is comprised of HSBC, Commonwealth Bank, and Westpac, to agree to allow it to access more of its debt, which is it's got agreed debt, but they need lender approval to release it, so it's kind of not really great. The lenders are owed $140 million total, made up of $65 million in bank guarantees and $75 million in a revolving credit line. Of the $75 million, $40 million is drawable and $35 they need that approval for. So they can't pay the UK back without the $35, which is the problem, and they need approval for $35. And if I'm a bank, I'm not giving these guys a cent because this is getting good money. The definition of good money after bad.
Well, let's think about that, because someone once said this to me. It's an old saying, but like if you owe the bank $1 million, that's your problem. If you owe $1 billion, that's their problem, right? And so
these guys are neither of the above.
Well, the thing is this: so they've got $40 million down the toilet. Well, $40 million owed, and the question is,
I think the $40 million revolver hasn't been drawn down. So there's 65 in bank guarantees, but the guarantees aren't banks. A bank would have security for that, I reckon. Yeah, so that's not really a risk.
So the question is, how exposed are they
banks
today?
Yeah.
And let's say it was, I'm just going to pick a number. Let's say it was 100 million.
I think it's I think they're exposed by 35 now.
So if you're exposed by 35.
And they want another 40.
Yeah. If you're exposed by 35 on this business and you're first ranked secured, which means you can force the sale of every last piece of this business and every cent goes to you until you're paid back, they might think 35 mil, we might be able to get this out of the carcass of this thing if we send it into liquidation. But if they're owed 100 mil, they might think, well, this carcass is not giving us 100 mil. Maybe our only chance of getting back that 100 mil is to keep this thing trading. So in a sense, well, maybe in every sense, the best possible outcome for corporate travel today is to currently have lots and lots of money outstanding.
Yeah, which
with
they
the
don't
bank.
really have because they don't have that many assets. They're not like a heavy industrials business that can lever up. Like I'm surprised they've got this much debt, to be honest.
So why do you think in that case? Because I always think people, it's easy to misunderstand the decision-making of a lender. And obviously, like a lender that has security is different to a lender that doesn't have security.
100%.
And but why has this not been pushed into liquidation, do you think?
Well, it's getting pretty close. That's the whole.
Because they would have, like, you can't engage in this behaviour and have it not breach the covenants, i.e. the promises you made to the bank.
I think there was an element that corporate. I've got to feel a little bit sorry for the chairperson here, who obviously wasn't running. He's clearly been gullible and terrible as a chairman. But he was a guy called Ewan Crouch, who's a lawyer who should know better. But he was certainly telling the market that we're going to trade through this, we're making money. Well, I was dubious because they haven't actually. If we need to take out the dodgy refunds, they haven't made money for years. So I'm not sure how they're suddenly starting to make money, but they claim this mythical profit. But if you look, Street Talk was incredibly well sourced. They noted that people close to the presentation, which was made by the CFO. The CEO wasn't even in the room, bizarrely. Guy called James Spence, and it was described as deeply uncomfortable and a bit of a stunned mullet, which isn't a particularly high praise. Apparently, the stumbling block is that lenders are demanding directors sign a declaration that company is solvent, which the board is unwilling to do, which kind of says it all, really. The board's not willing to stand by the solvency of this business.
Well, I think when you ask for safe harbour, you're not going to sign a declaration that says it's solvent.
Yeah, we're kind of in a
They're mutually exclusive.
It's a classic catch-22 here, right? And listeners recall that Adir and I argued on whether this bunch of frauds would survive this mess.
Which I haven't changed my view.
We'll go to the grab now. I think more likely than not, CTM doesn't survive.
Okay,
but we'll see.
All right. Well, I'll take that bet. What can we do with this?
Within a year.
Within a year?
Okay, 6 months.
3 months.
3 months is too short because 3 months you can like dead businesses can survive.
30th of June, end of the fiscal year.
They got to if they submit audited financials for next year, you win the bet. If they don't, I win the bet.
I'm always happy to have this conversation with you about corporate travel because, I want you to be happy.
So you think,
and this makes you very happy to talk about this stuff. I just want to facilitate your happiness. But this is what I think. We know there's a huge accident, like a huge car accident. We're watching it in slow motion. All we're seeing now is bits of the car flying in every direction as we watch the crash. What we don't know is whether it's a fatal crash or not. And so, of course, every bit of the car is going to go flying off in every direction in the meantime, but I still don't know how this ends.
Well, my view is the car's driven off the bridge and landed 100 metres below in the river. And you think, this guy could still be alive. Pretty sure the guy's dead.
You know that scene? I can't believe I'm going to reference a movie
like
scene.
Eminem Stan thing.
No, I'm going to reference a movie scene for you, which is a very old movie, which is
Thelma and Louise.
No, it's I could have referenced that, but this is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You know that? Yeah. You know the scene where one of them says,
in both of them?
Yeah, Robert. Oh, I don't know. He's in one of them. And so you know when they say we're going to jump off the cliff into the water, and one guy says, "I can't swim," and the other guy laughs and says, "Don't worry about it. The fall will kill you." Like that's a bit like what you're saying about this, which I get. I'm just not sure I totally agree with that.
So shares in CTM, chaired by you and Crouch, of course, haven't traded since last August when new orders Deloitte took over from PwC and first identified issues relating to earnings back in 2023, actually. At the time it was listed last year, investors still valued this disgraced corporate travel giant at more than $2 billion. Everybody was just absolutely smashed
probably
by this.
not worth $2 billion.
Well,
I think we can
most
probably
investors
say.
now written down to zero.
Yeah.
So most investors seem to agree with me now. So have you, just more seriously, have you
ACP
thought about the
down to
lunch?
zero?
I don't think they're down to zero yet. Your mates who chose to invest in...
That would absolutely not be called
Who
my
chose to
mates.
invest in CTM instead of Catapult and have probably just absolutely done their investors dough there.
Well, you know what? In defense of that line, it is very hard to know what to invest in, and it depends on your
I
time
think
frames. That wasn't my particular issue.
Well, Doug
with them.
Tynan's been talking about this since 2015, 16. So this was, and I've been talking about it for years and years. Like this has been the most obvious thing. Like the numbers didn't match, the cash flow didn't match the P&L. Now, as soon as Jamie left, you know these guys are dead men walking. When the founder goes, like I gave these like basically 0% chance of survival. I'm now like confident it's at zero. I still have CTM clowns who work there abusing me on LinkedIn saying, oh no, we're going really well. Well, I don't think you are, guys, but this is a massive debacle for a $2.3 billion business to just evaporate in thin air.
What were you going to bet? I sidetracked you, but you're about to criticise me about something to do with lunches. Come on, get that out of the system.
Yeah, well, have you chosen our lunch venue? Because we obviously famous had a bet.
I still owe you a lunch, and every time I ask you if you want the lunch, I feel
When have
like...
you ever, I don't call you back. I don't call being
feel
asked.
like your attitude is, I would rather have the
Hold
pleasure
it
of
over
holding
you.
the lunch over
That is
you
true.
than consume the food at your expense.
I'm not denying. Now I've got two lunches.
That's true.
Now I've got two. I can probably extract the one and hold the other one over you.
Chickens, you know that saying? Count your chickens before they've hatched? This chicken hasn't hatched yet. Let's see.
The chickens now, like the hatched chickens now having kids of their own, I think. That's how hatched that chicken is. Anyway, so I think I'll claim one. I might claim
We'll wait
the goiter
with
lunch.
non-bated breath. What's the opposite to bated breath? We'll wait breathing very comfortably and
Peppermint
at
breath.
a relatively slow rate.
Well, now, obviously, the famous first bet was the Richard Goyder bet. He's now about to step down, another debacle, but step down from Woodside. So he will now be gone from,
Everyone
gone from corporate
eventually
Australia.
steps down from everything.
Well, not too soon
No one
for this
goes
guy.
forever.
Yeah, sadly, he should have happened a couple of years ago. But it was AFL's in an absolute debacle, which he left.
I
rather
like
than his
the
fault.
AFL.
The whole
What
big,
else
big
have you got
scandal.
going? Yeah, I know that you're very into that.
Let's move on. The world's biggest IPO is soon to be upon us, with Elon Musk's SpaceX lodging its prospectus with the SEC to raise $80 billion in June, eclipsing, do you know what was the current title holder?
Wasn't it the Saudi Aramco?
It was. So Saudi they only raised $26 billion, but it was a $2
Chump
trillion
change.
valuation.
Chump change.
That was quite a few years. That was pre-COVID, right? Founded by Elon Musk, of course, in 2002. Really the only business he's found, because he didn't found Tesla. We kind of funded X, which became part of PayPal, but he hasn't actually found that many businesses. He did found SpaceX, and it's really revolutionised the commercial space industry. The company grew from a startup with a handful of employees and almost went out of business to one of the world's most valuable private companies with more than 22,000 workers as of 31st of March. It controls technologies that rival and even beat nation states. Do you remember the story of how he came up with his first SpaceX rocket?
No.
It's a great story. So he was wanting to buy a rocket for some reason, and he went to Russia. This is sort of early Putin days, so you could go to Russia.
It's a crazy story already.
It's like the Tetris story. So he went to Russia.
Well, we can already start with the story that starts, he wanted to buy a rocket.
That's
an unusual beginning for a story.
I think the precursor, he wanted to buy a rocket, and it was really expensive in the US.
Yeah. Well, I think rockets are usually quite expensive.
Call it 100 million, whatever. I'm making up this number, but it's probably too directionally right. He went to Russia, and Russia said, we'll do it for you for 15 million. So a lot cheaper than the US, but still too expensive for Elon. So he flew on a private jet to Russia, had his PayPal money, and they struck out with Russia, a bit like Tetris guy. On the way back, he's doodling in the private plane and realised, hold on, what's a rocket? It's a bit of metal, it's a bit of propulsion, a bit of gas. He literally went back to first principles. Like, why don't we build a rocket? Like, if the raw ingredients only cost $2 million and America's charging 50 or 100 and Russia's charging 15. If I can do it for two, there's clearly a product market fit here. And he did it. He built this rocket for a fraction of what everybody else, and that's why SpaceX has become so dominant. So unbelievable story.
That's a good story.
The Journal noted that SpaceX reported revenue last year of basically $19 billion US, up 33% on the prior year. Did lose $4.94 billion. We'll go into more detail in a second. This was driven by a sharp increase in costs for R&D. In 2024, SpaceX actually made a profit of $800 million, apparently. SpaceX valuation earlier this year was $1.25 billion US, but of course this seems to have like zero relationship with its earnings or its revenue. GQG portfolio manager Ben Larson said SpaceX is trading at an eye-watering valuation, with its IPO implying a price to sales multiple of more than 100. Price to sales, let alone price to earnings.
Well, hang on. Remind me the name of that X-ray. Pro Medicus. Pro Medicus were running at 300, weren't they? 300 times revenue.
That was PE.
Oh, 300 times earnings.
Yeah, no,
okay, fair enough.
Well, they have very high margins as well.
Yeah. 300 PE for them, though, and a 50% or 40% margin.
Not horrendous. It has dropped 50% since then, though. So
yeah. But actually, obviously that would mean only a 40 times. So they would look cheap compared to this.
So investors are paying $100 for every $1 of sales. That's crazy. As the journal noted, SpaceX is known for building majestic rockets, firing those giant beasts of marvelous engineering into the skies and catching them with chopsticks. But the company's extraordinary ambitions are fueled by a much more ordinary product. SpaceX has essentially become an internet service provider that also explores space, of course, through Starlink, which we both love.
Which is their main driver of revenue,
Absolutely.
right?
So it's got 3 segments. We'll talk about them more in detail. Space, AI, and connectivity. Connectivity means Starlink. Last year, Starlink was responsible for $11 billion of revenue, so call 11 of 18, which is more than 6% of total sales. It is the most valuable part of the business and the only profitable one. So if you look sort of more closely, if I go for the year ended 2025, how much they spent as well. So they spent $2 billion on space. This is expenditures. 3.5 on connectivity, which is called the Starlink stuff. They spent $5.6 billion on AI, which essentially is XAI. Yeah. So all this money going out the door is this frontier model.
But that's what
stuff.
Elon does, bring everything together. So one thing cross-subsidises the others. And the big advantage he has is he can always look every investor in the eye and say, don't worry about the numbers. You don't have to do any research. I always give returns to my investors. That's his big advantage.
So if you look at cash flows last year, cash from operating in 2025, $7 billion. Cash used by investing, that's buying stuff, like could be R&D or whatever, negative $20 billion. And then financing $26 billion. So it's been kept alive.
I wonder why they're IPOing.
Yeah, well, clearly they're out of cash. The only way they can keep going is by doing this. So you clearly got... Starlink's a great business. We talk about moats and both think Starlink's a great business. Yeah. Not a monopoly, but close to a monopoly for that satellite. Obviously, there's lots of ISPs, and Amazon's doing its LEO business, and people are starting to come and do Starlink style business.
You see, it's not exactly Amazon, but you see what's Blue Origin. Yep. You see that little disaster they had during
That's part of the course. That happened to SpaceX for years.
It did, but like that just shows how far behind they are compared to
as Elon says. Elon tweeted, our rockets are hard. So I think if you look at Starlink, great business. You question how much it's worth, but great business. We can talk about. Why don't we do a sum of parts? Starlink, great business, and it's if you look at its subscriber growth has grown from 2.3 to 4.4 to 8.9. Although what I would note is its ARPU, which is how much the subscribers pay, has dropped from 99 to 91 to 81. So it's growing really quickly, but it's actually dropping its cost.
But that makes sense because it's moving from early adopters to
more consumer. Yeah. Not just planes. Planes have a massive ARPU. Yeah. And you can get a satellite at home. It's got $100 a month. So clearly that's dropped the ARPU. That's also right. The growth has been high.
Is it right for me to say most of the satellites by number in low Earth orbit today are Starlink satellites? I think that's true.
7,000 of 10,000 or something crazy number. And because it's got a near monopoly on launches, that's the Starlink and SpaceX work beautifully together. So it just effectively I think something like 70 to 80% of SpaceX's payload is actually Starlink anyway.
So what are their earnings, did you say?
So I think the Starlink business, made $1.6 billion in 23, up to basically $4 billion in 2024 and $7 billion in 2025. So this is adjusted EBITDA, so there's probably going to be some big asterisks around this, but this is a decent profitable
$a few billion dollars in profit, we could say.
Well, even if let's give it an EBITDA multiple or whatever that EBITDA multiple is, if you feel this could be a $200 to $300 billion business, Starlink, because there's so much TAM. Yeah. Like, it's not unlimited TAM because ultimately a lot of people don't need it, but every plane will have it, every boat will have it.
I'm in agreement.
So I think $200-300 billion feels like great business, incredible business. I'm not sure, like, the problem with SpaceX is SpaceX really exists to serve Starlink. So as an independent business, how much is it worth? I don't know. It's probably worth something, but not that much. But let's give SpaceX $100 billion valuation.
And you think this thing is like kind of a break-even business?
in totality.
No, this is the rocket part.
Oh, the rocket part, which is SpaceX, loses money, but it's sort of serving Starlink. So it's worth something. But you almost got to bunch those two together, call it $300-400 billion combined. SpaceX is not a genuine monopoly, but close to a genuine monopoly. Nobody can do this stuff. NASA can't do it. They have to use it. Boeing couldn't do it.
But the thing is, not that many people need it. That's the challenge.
Yeah. The problem is XAI.
Yeah.
This is a business that's burning $9 million a year. So let's look at the good businesses are worth $400 billion, we think.
And that's the bit he mainly cares about.
Well, I don't know. I think that obviously that's the original Twitter, which became part of XAI. So you got Grok, which is their LLM. We just talked about Anthropic. It's appropriate to talk about Grok. So you got Anthropic and OpenAI at kind of $1 billion valuation. But Grok is like a fraction of that size and not growing and not profitable and all that stuff. So
as much as Elon is a man of vision and some other human complexities, he's also a man of vendettas and vengeance, you would have to say. And so XAI, that is a great vengeance play if he can make it work, because he hates Sam Altman.
But I'm not sure, I think the Cursor deal, so it's in agreement to buy Cursor for $60 billion as part of this whole stuff. Cursor is actually a great product, really popular, and was using Anthropic, so Elon built a heap of compute with his Colossus. He built this massive NVIDIA data centers. I think because they're the two biggest data centers in the world, and he wasn't utilizing them. So the Cursor thing, super smart. But I still don't think this business is worth much, if anything. But even if we give $100 billion, it's a fraction of the size of Anthropic and OpenAI. But if you give it 100 or even 200, being super
your
generous,
argument is you can
billion.
maybe stretch at maximum reach to half the $1 trillion.
Yeah.
But not to the $1 trillion.
Well, this has been valued at $2 trillion.
Yeah. So does it matter? Does any of what you said actually matter? Like, is it worth 1 minute of your time doing any financial analysis on these, other than interest?
Other than to show that it's just so far away from any kind of intrinsic value.
Don't you think that's Tesla?
Tesla's 100%.
So, and everyone who gives Elon money, they make money.
Well, depends how you define, mate. Like if you define the value of a business as the present day of its cash flows, these businesses aren't worth much. If you value it at what the marginal moron is willing to pay in the public markets, they're worth a lot. So
Tesla is at an all-time high or not?
No,
I think it's
lost
track of it.
No, you're right, all-time high. So effectively, it's like just off it.
So everyone's made money on Tesla.
Yeah.
So everyone who is 1/10 of your brain power or less, large percentage of the population, they can't even read financial statements, let alone have the inclination to do so. All they did was bought Tesla shares. They all made money. Every one of them made money.
If they sell today, they made money. But the question is, will these people ever sell?
And so this is the thing. I just come back to this over and over and over again. The era we're living in, I'll be a bit philosophical, is kings have been replaced by corporate tyrants. And so all of the capturing countries, unless you're Vladimir Putin, like all of the capturing countries has not disappeared, that inclination in human beings. It's just been replaced by corporate activity and dominating the world. So that's today's kings and queens. And then you've got the need for religion, because, the traditional religions are largely diminished in the West, although not entirely. And so what you have is people like Elon coming and like they're their own kind of savior and someone to believe in. Yeah. And you've got large percentages of the population in Western countries that see no linear way to make any amount of money that lets them buy a house or live a decent life. But they see crypto, it's another religion. Yeah. They see Elon, and these are can bring financial salvation to people who otherwise couldn't get there. That's all I'm saying. And will it end? Yeah, I am very worried, as I have been for a while, that this all ends in complete catastrophe. Yeah. And hopefully there'll be a recession, so there's not a depression. But for the time being, if you had 1 year to live, thank God you don't, but if you had 1 year to live and you had to build as much wealth as possible in that 1 year, what are you buying? What are you going to buy? If you had 1 year, that's it.
I wouldn't buy these things because I think they're just too overvalued.
Would you have bought into Anthropic?
Yeah, I would have bought into Anthropic way before these
NVIDIA?
things.
Now?
Well, it's run so hard, it's $5 trillion.
I think you'd have to. If you had 1 year, I think you'd have to. Because it's unlikely to crash in the next year.
I'm not saying it's going to crash. I'm saying how much upside does it have?
I thought that at $1 trillion.
Yeah.
What was that, 10 minutes ago?
I think we talk about sort of bubbles. Bubbles always have this intrinsic truth. Look at the .com bubble. Yeah, internet clearly...
It was globally revolutionary.
Yeah, revolutionary. Yep. And Amazon is the ultimate beneficiary there.
Trains.
And Alphabet.
Same thing.
Absolutely. Trains and bus. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a kernel of truth. Maybe not the tulip stuff, but there's almost always a kernel of truth here. The kernel of truth here is Elon is a generationally incredible entrepreneur. Mate, is responsible for bringing electric cars into the mainstream, which is unbelievable. Is responsible for Starlink, which is an incredible product. SpaceX is unbelievable how it gets rockets for a fraction of the cost of everyone else. He's an unbelievable scientist, an unbelievable engineer, one of the smartest guys ever lived. That doesn't mean his company should be worth 3.5 trillion though. It's where the brilliance of Musk has completely detached from any kind of financial reality is the problem. So if you said, Elon, you created a $600 billion business in this SpaceX thing, unbelievable. And you created a $100 billion in Tesla, unbelievable. One of the most valuable car companies in the world, because it is a very good car. I love Teslas. Two of my favorite products in the world is Starlink and Tesla. And because I have both, and I love to use Starlink. I'll choose a plane based on Starlink, and I love my Tesla. So I'm generally an Elon Musk fan. What I'm not a fan of is someone valuing something worth 600 billion, 3.5 trillion.
All right, but what, as a percentage of its intrinsic value, what's more overvalued, this or Firmus?
Well, the Firmus is binomial. If a Firmus gets out and it can probably just maybe one day justify something like its valuation, or it doesn't get out and never goes to zero.
So I think that if you had $1 to invest today, it would be the easiest decision in the world to back Elon at this valuation versus Firmus.
I would back Firmus.
Would you? I'm shocked to hear that.
I'm not a massive believer in Firmus, but Firmus is a binomial. Like Firmus either does really well or maybe goes to zero, but there's whatever that equals.
You think Firmus is different to Iron and CoreWeave, or you put them all in the same basket?
Yes, it's different to Iron and CoreWeave. Well, they're different businesses. Oh, actually, Iron's more like Firmus. CoreWeave's different.
Yeah.
I'm not investing in Firmus, by the way, but I would invest in Firmus.
It's possible no one's I can't believe you haven't made more of a song and dance about that.
We did a couple of weeks ago.
No, but I thought I'd be hearing that for you every day, that it's not IPOs.
No, I get tired from all these victory laps. I inevitably, let's assume the Tesla merges with the SpaceX. I think inevitably will, because Tesla needs the cash.
Yeah.
So you've got $3.6 trillion in market value. I can't see this not dropping to 500 billion.
But you understand,
which is almost guaranteed 80% loss to cap, 80-something% loss of capital.
Well, I thought that about Tesla for a long time. I think that
doesn't mean you're wrong.
If you were living on Mars and you saw Tesla's financial statements, it would be a weird thing to do while living on Mars. But like, if that's what you chose to do, you would not exactly. You would not pick a valuation anywhere near the current valuation.
Business markets stay rational longer than one can stay solvent, which is why I'm not shorting this.
It's been a long time of irrationality.
Because this is a bigger bubble, and it's a bigger charade. It doesn't mean it's not a bubble.
So you know why this valuation exists? There's one reason for this particular valuation.
Exact number.
Yeah.
I presume he's trying to get as much as he can, right?
Yeah, he wants to be the first person to be worth $1 trillion. I think that is almost his entire motivation.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to keep this thing alive.
Yeah.
But he can keep it alive at a much...
Also less dilution, the more...
All right, but he can keep it alive at all sorts of valuations and get the cash for it. I think this person is fundamentally driven by a level of insecurity matched maybe by Trump. And so his main motivator is to become the first trillionaire on Earth. Yeah.
And so I'm a huge, actually an Elon fan. A lot of people hate Elon for everything he does. I'm not that. I just think this valuation is just inevitably going to end in tears, like you say. I can't see it being worth, even 500 billion is probably being generous, because that relies on Starlink massively. We know nothing else really makes any money. We know Starlink, SpaceX kind of one entity. The XAI thing, neither of them have much hope. Yeah, Cursor's a good business. Maybe it makes a little bit of money out of the Cursor thing, but it's not going to be amazing. Tesla doesn't really make much money now. Will it get self-driving right?
And everything that Elon focuses on, it does really well. But the more things you've got, the less focus you can give each one.
Totally. So I'm very bearish on this SpaceX thing. Are you a seller or are you a holder of SpaceX stock when it lists?
Listen, I'm going to just say something that is completely ridiculous. If you said to me, you got to just make money in the next 1 year, I think this thing is going up if it gets away. Whatever price it gets away at, I think it's going up.
You might be right in the first year, but space irrational longer than we can be solvent. The question is, what does it end up dropping?
Well, the way I think about this is pretty simple. You have to insure Elon for the full value of everything that he's involved in with keyman risk. Yeah. Because the minute he dies, everything goes to basically zero.
Oh, there's that as well.
I mean, not literally zero.
I forgot about the keyman risk.
Good night, right? And so this is a bet on Elon staying alive and like cognitively sharp.
Yeah.
That's it. And so that I would never make a bet like that.
Well, I think it's a great, if you can afford to hold the short, we know there's like a 2% chance of Elon dying each year for natural causes or whatever it is. Like simply the 2% of it's worth it based on that for the short, I reckon. Because if that happens, betting his shorts in the money straight off.
Well, that's 80% of the value gone overnight.
It goes to what it should be, 500, 400 billion. Actually overcorrects, goes lower.
All of his businesses do.
Yeah.
You lose 80% across all. His businesses are effective. Valuation is being held
Elon
up
premium.
on the shoulders of one giant.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But we've got an Elon premium of 600% here. This is a best $500 billion business being valued at, as businesses, I'm talking Tesla and SpaceX combined, being valued at $3.6 trillion.
Yeah, well,
3.7, yeah.
that's
Crazy.
Elon.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up here. Great episode. We've got a very special guest coming in on Saturday, so please don't miss out. As we said in the top of the episode, don't forget to subscribe to both the newsletter and, of course, the pod. If you're not a subscriber, we really appreciate it. We're going to give an incredible prize. You're going to get $1 million of daily blooms. Not really.
A trillion, a billion.
Elon Musk style.
A trillion is bigger than billion. A trillion.
Yeah. No, we'll get a $500 luxury case voucher if you're a subscriber. We'll arrange the weekly draw. Very, very lucky person. Thanks for listening, of course. See everybody on Saturday.
I'm sure I can get an Eva voucher. I'll apply some pressure.
Yeah, amazing. So you get multiple vouchers. So how good is that? Or even more the reason to sign up. So jump on right now. We'll see everybody on Saturday.